have debated for almost a year whether to share this. Part of me still doesn't believe it happened to me, and another part of me knows the second I put into words, it becomes real in a way I can't ignore it anymore. But the nightmares haven't stopped, and every time the full moon rolls around, I find myself lying awake, sweating and listening, waiting for something will never come scratching at my windows again. So I am going to write it all as best as I can. Just know that what I saw in Black Hollow wasn't a story and it wasn't some trick of my imagination. It was real. God help me. It was real. I am a wildlife photographer. I have spent the better part of 15 years chasing animals across the country and sometimes outside it, hoping to capture the moments that most people will never see with their own eyes. I have been charged by a moose. I have been stood 15 feet from a wild grizzly bear. I have watched wolf pack take down a deer in the snow. I am not new to the danger. I am not too prone to exaggerate the things I have witnessed. If anything, I am too skeptical for my own good. But this experience, it was different. It all started when a friend of mine, another photographer who liked to chase folklore and legends, mentioned this tiny town in Appalachian foothills called Black Hollow. He told me that for decades, locals there whispered about something crawling in the woods under the full moon. Cows scattered in pastures, sheep torn apart, even guard dogs going missing. Some people called it coyotes, others said feral dogs. The more superstitious spoke of curses and monsters. My friend laughed it off, but the way he told the story made me curious about it. I started looking online, but there wasn't much. The scattered mentions on old message boards, a couple of blurry photos of dead animals, a lot of locals warning outsiders to mind their own business when you were there. That only made me want to go there. It was in early October when I packed my car. It was in early October when I packed my stuff and readied my car and made the trip. The farther I drove into the mountains, the narrower the road got, until the trees were so close on both sides that it felt like driving through a tunnel. By the time I was within a few miles of the town, my GPS lost its signal completely. No cell service either, just me and the road and miles of dense forest that swallowed the sunlight. I didn't pass another car for almost an hour while traveling through there. When the town finally appeared, it was almost daring. A handful of houses sagging with age, a boarded up gas station, a diner with flickering neon sign, the kind of place time forgot. And right at the edge where the forest threatened to reclaim it, a old hotel. Two stories, wooden siding, weathered grey. A sign that looked like it had been painted since the 60s. Inside, the air smelled like dust. The lobby had a desk, a couch sagging in the middle, and wallpaper peeling at the corners. Behind the counter sat a man in his 60s, gowned, with sharp features and tired eyes. His name, I later learned, was Miss Craig. I told him I'd be staying for a couple of nights, working on a photography project in the woods. He handed me a key without much ceremony. But before I could walk away, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't go into the woods during a full moon, not if you value your skin." The way he said it, quiet, flat, no hint of humor, that unnerved me. I tried to play it off, asked if it was because the hunters or something dangerous in the area. He just shook his head. "Something's out there, ain't meant to be seen." Then he looked past me as if the conversation was over. That night, I walked into the town, hoping to find someone willing to talk about it. The diner was the only place open. A few locals sat outside smoking, and when they saw me, the conversation dipped. I asked casually about the wildlife, if there were any wolves in the area. The oldest of the group, a man with a wiry beard and hand like knocked wood, muttered, "No wolves here, not for a long time." After that, I came back to my room and I went to bed. That night with my curiosity burning hotter than ever before. The next evening, I headed into the forest with my gear. The moon was full and hung low, turning the leaves silver. I walked for an hour, setting up motion sensor camera along the game trail and near a creek. The deeper I went, the more wrong everything felt. No crickets, no frogs, no owls either, just completely silent, thick and heavy, pressing against my ears. Then I smelled it. At first, I thought it was just something dead nearby, a raccoon, or maybe a deer. But the longer I stood there, the worse it got. A stench like wet fur mixed with rotten meat, something sharp, metallic, like blood. It made my stomach twitch. That's when I heard the growl. It came from the trees ahead, low and guttural, but there was something off about it. It wasn't purely animal. There was a depth, almost a resonance, that it made sound disturbingly close to a human. The hair on my back of my neck stood up. I swung my flashlight, but the beam caught nothing. My hand shook as I raised my camera and snapped a photo. The flash lit up the forest for a split second, and in that instant, I saw two eyes. Amber, glowing fixed on me from between the tree lines, and below them, the outline of something massive, broad shoulders covered in shaggy fur, limbs that too long, and a snout just forward with blinding teeth, upright and watching my every move. The flash died, plugging me back into the darkness. My head slammed against my ribs. My brain screamed at me to run. But I was froze, staring into the black gap where the eyes had been. The smell grew stronger, and I heard branches creak under the weight, and it was moving closer. That broke me. I turned and ran. My flashlight beam swung wildly, catching glimpses of trunks and roots before I nearly tripped over them. Behind me, I heard it crashing through the trees, heavy and fast. But it wasn't on four legs. I could tell them from the rhythm of the footsteps. It was upright and running like a man. When the hotel finally came into the view, I threw myself inside and slammed the door shut. Miss Crane was behind the desk. He didn't ask me what happened. He just looked at me and said, "You saw it, didn't you?" I couldn't answer. My whole body was shaking. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of the wind against the window had me on the edge. The next morning, I thought about leaving, but when I checked the camera I strapped to my chest, I found a blurry frame of it, amber eyes, glowing in the dark, for catching the light of my flash. It wasn't proof anyone would believe, but it was enough for me, enough to know I hadn't imagined it all. And like a fool, I told myself I had to go back one more night. That evening, I stayed closer to the inn, maybe a 10 minutes run away. I had my GoPro on, a stronger flashlight this time, even a hunting knife strapped to my belt, though I doubted it would do much good. Around midnight, the forest went still again, then the smell, and then the growl. I was standing in the middle of the forest. There is darkness around me. I have heard wolves before, but this wasn't a wolf. The sound stretched too long, broke half like vocal cords tearing, rising in pitch until it almost became a scream. It vibrated through my bones. When the howl cut off, I realized it was close, too close. Then I spun my light, and there was it, standing at the tree line, upright, just rising and falling. Eyes locked on me. It took a step forward, claws scraping down the bark of the tree, with a sound that made my teeth ache. After seeing that, I turned and I ran. I don't remember much except the pure panic. My feet barely seemed to touch the ground. Behind me it roared, a sound that wasn't animal and wasn't human either, but something in between. The forest exploded with noise as it chased me, branches snapping, earth shaking under its weight. I reached the hotel and slammed the door behind me. My lungs burned, my vision blurred. For a moment, I thought I was safe. Then the scratching started on my window. Slow at first, then faster. The glass trembled and cracks spread across it. My stomach dropped. My room was on the second floor. I turned off the light and went into the closet. After some time, the scratching still continued, and I didn't wait any longer. I grabbed my bag, my keys, everything I could carry, and I ran. As I tore down from the hotel, I heard the sound of shattered glass above me. I didn't stop to check on Mr. Crane. I didn't look back. I jumped into my car, slammed the door, and drove like hell, tires spinning in the gravel as I fled that cursed town. I drove until the sky lightened with dawn, then pulled into a rest stop and sat there shaking, barely able to breathe. When I finally checked my GoPro footage, most of it was useless. Taking lights, panicked gasps, blurred shapes, but in one frame, frozen in the chaos, you can see it. A face in the trees, a snow, teeth burnt, eyes burning like coals, and that image burned in my mind forever.
I am still shaken up, and I hope that by sharing this, I might get some advice or at least find some understanding what happened to me. What I experienced last night was something straight out of a nightmare, and I can't seem to shake it off. Here's what happened. I have been driving all day. It was a long haul from a job in the middle of nowhere to my home. I usually take a shortcut through a series of back roads to avoid the traffic and make it home quicker. Normally, it's a pretty uneventful drive, but last night that was different. The sun had just set and it was getting darker quickly. I had about an hour left on this lonely stretch of road that wind through dense forest and barely any light. I was trying to stay alert, but the monotony of the drive was making me drowsy. I was maybe 20 minutes from my home when my headlight caught something strange. It looked like a person standing by the side of the road, almost like they were waiting for a ride or something. I slowed my truck down, my instincts on high alert. The person was wearing what looked like an old, tattered clothes and was standing completely still. It was so dark that I couldn't make out any more details. As I got closer, the figure turned and started walking into the woods. I thought about stopping to check if they needed any help, but something felt off. They moved too smoothly, like they were gliding rather than walking. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I kept on driving, trying to shake off the unease. A few minutes into the drive, I noticed something else. My truck's radio started acting up. It was picking up static and strange noises that I never heard before. I tried to adjust it, but the static wouldn't stop. Then I heard what sounded like a distorted voices that seemed to be whispering, but I couldn't make any word out of it. I thought maybe it was interference from nearby equipment or something. I tried to ignore it and focus on the road. The woods on either side of the road were thick and dark, make it hard to see beyond the trees. Then I saw it again, the same figure from before, now standing in the middle of the road. My heart skipped a beat. I slammed on the brake and skid to a stop. The figure was just standing there, unmoving. I honked the horn, but there was no response. In a panic, I put the truck in reverse and tried to turn around, but the figure suddenly moved. It wasn't walking, it was more like it was gliding towards me. The face was still hidden in the shadows, but I could feel its gaze. My truck's engine roared as it rolled into gear and sped away. The road seemed endless. The woods seemed to close in around me as far as I went. The shadows stretching and shifting around my truck. I felt like I was being watched all the time. The radio noise grew louder, and the whispers turned into agonized cries. I couldn't see anything clearly, but I kept feeling like something was darting just out of sight, moving along with my truck and keeping the speed. I finally spotted a small rundown diner on side of the road. I pulled in, desperate for a place to stop and rest. The diner was closed, but I figured I could wait there until I calmed down and keep my nerves under control. I parked near the entrance and sat in the truck, trying to steady my breathing. That's when I heard it, a faint tapping sound coming from the other side of the truck. I turned on the interior light, but there was nothing there. The tapping continued, though rhythmic and persistent. I couldn't see anything, but the feeling of dread was overwhelming. I decided to check outside. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly got off the truck, shining the beam around and looking. There was nothing visible, but the tapping had stopped. I was about to head back inside to my cabin. That's when I saw it. A set of deep scratches on the passenger side door. They were fresh, like they had been made moments ago. I got back in the truck and locked the door. I sat there for what felt like hours, too scared to move. The static on the radio was still there, and the whispers never completely faded. Every time I thought about getting out, I heard the tapping again, always from different spots around the trucks. Finally, as dawn began to break, I mustered the courage to drive off. I didn't stop for anything and took the main highway back home. I'm still not sure what I saw or heard last night. The figure, the whispers, and the scratches, they didn't make any sense. When I got home, I checked online for any similar reports in that area. I found a few threads from local talking about strange occurrences and sightings of shadowy figures in the woods. They mentioned old stories about creatures that can imitate humans and lead people into the forest. They called them skinwalkers. I'm not sure if that's what I encountered, but the fear I felt was real. If anyone has any insights or has experienced something similar, please share. I don't want to go near those roads again, and I am hoping that by sharing this, I can get at least some clarity. Thanks for listening to my story.
This one comes from a small Navajo community in the New Mexico, where a series of disturbing events led to a chilling confrontation with the terrifying skinwalker. If you are into dark folklore and supernatural tales, you will want to stick around for this one. The story takes place in a small village in northern New Mexico, surrounded by stunning yet rugged landscape of the high desert. It was a small community where everyone knew each other and respect the old traditions. However, tensions were high due to a land dispute between two families, which had been simmering for months. Things took a dark turn when a respected elder from one of the families was found dead under a mysterious circumstances. Although the official case of the death was deemed accidental, whispers of the dark magic and skinwalkers began to circulate. For those who are unfamiliar, a skinwalker is a type of witch from Navajo mythology, known for its ability to transform into animals and wield malevolent powers that are used to harm others. Tom, a local sheriff, started noticing strange occurrences around the village. Animals were acting strangely, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him wherever he went. One night, while heading home from a late night shift, he saw his neighbor Joe standing in his yard, staring blankly at the horizon. When Tom approached him, Joe was unresponsive and his eyes were glanced over. When he touched him, Joe collapsed, muttering about a skinwalker seeking revenge. Over the next few days, the village was plagued by eerie happenings. People reported seeing a shadowy figure lurking around their homes at night, hearing strange noises, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. It quickly became clear that the community was dealing with something supernatural, something beyond our understanding. With growing fear, the villagers turned to a local shaman, a respected figure known for his knowledge of the old ways and the legends. The shaman performed rituals and protective ceremonies to ward off the skinwalker, but the attacks only intensified after that. People began experiencing more frequent and terrifying encounters, including sightings of the shadowy figure and unsettling noise at night outside of their house. One particularly stormy evening, the skinwalker made his presence known in a dramatic way. Tom and several villagers witnessed the creature, a shape-shifting figure that blended human and animal traits. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and it moved with an unnatural speed and agility. The attacks grew more violent, and the village was plunged into the fear and the chaos. Determined to confront the skinwalker, Tom and a group of brave villagers set out to find it. They followed the creature's track to an old abandoned house on the outskirts of the village. The house was a descriptive and filled with remains of dark rituals. Inside the old house, they discovered a hidden chamber adorned with symbols and artifacts related to dark magic. They spent some time in the dark old house. That's when they realized they was not alone in there. As the skinwalker emerged from the shadows, it was clear that this would be a formidable fight. The skinwalker's ability to shift forms made it difficult to predict its next move and defend against its attacks. The villagers, armed with protective charms and guided by the shaman, fought back with everything they had. The battle was intense and terrifying, with the skinwalker using its shape-shifting ability to disorient and attack. However, the villagers' unity and determination proved to be their greatest strength. Through the sheer courage and the guidance of the shaman, they managed to drive off the skinwalker away. The defeat of the skinwalker brought a sense of relief to the village, but the damage had been done. The elder's death remained a painful reminder of the events, and the land dispute was finally resolved. But it left behind lingering mistrust and fear. The community had been through a harrowing ordeal, but they emerged stronger and more united. Tom's story serves a haunting reminder of the power of ancient legends and the dark forces that can emerge from unresolved conflicts. It underscores the importance of courage, unity, and respect for the supernatural elements woven into the fabric of our world. I have to share something chilling that happened to me on the 4th of July. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, but it turned into a nightmare that I will never forget. Here's what happened. Last night, my friends and I decided to watch the fireworks from a different spot, a quiet hillside overlooking the city few minutes from our homes. The view was breathtaking as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in a shades of orange and purple. As the first firework burst into the sky, we cheered and clapped like everyone else. It was a perfect summer night, with the smell of barbecue and the sound of laughter filling the air. But then, as the show reached its peak, something strange caught my eye. A shadow moved in the trees at the edge of the hill, a silhouette that didn't quite belong. I squinted, trying to make out what it was. Maybe just a trick of the lights, I thought. But then the shadow moved again, more distinct this time, like a person standing perfectly still. I nudged my friend,
Sam, and whispered, "Do you see that?" He followed my gaze and frowned. "Yeah, what is that, dude?" We watched in silence as the shadow shifted, as if it were watching us back. The fireworks continued to explode overhead, but my attention was fixed on the figure that's standing behind the trees. "Should we go and check?" Sam asked nervously. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. "Yeah, let's go see what's behind the trees." Leaving our other friends behind, we made our way cautiously. The shadows grew deeper as we approached, and a chill ran down my spine. "Hello?" Sam called out nervously. "Is someone there?" He continued to speak, but there was no response, just the distant cheers of the crowd and the crackling of fireworks. Then suddenly, the shadow moved very fast, darting deeper into the woods. Without thinking, we followed, stumbling over roots and fallen branches in the dim light. As we ventured deeper into the forest, the sound of celebration faded behind us. The air grew cooler, and the trees closed in around us like fingers closing around our throats. "We should go back," Sam said, his voice barely audible. He was so scared. So am I. But I couldn't shake that feeling that we weren't meant to find whatever or whoever was out there. The shadow continued to elude us, slipping through underneath of the bush like smoke. Finally, we reached a small clearing. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting an eerie shadow on the ground. And there, in the center of the clearing, was the figure we had been chasing. It was a woman, dressed in tattered clothes that hung loosely from her thin frame. Her hair was wild and tangled. Her eyes gleamed in the darkness. "Are you okay?" I asked cautiously, taking a step forward. She didn't reply, just stared at us with an intensity that sent shivers. Sam grabbed my arm, his finger digging into my skin. "We should go," he urged, his voice trembling. But before we could retreat, the woman finally spoke, a low, whispering sound that sent chills through the air. "They are coming," she rasped, her eyes darting nervously around the clearing. "Who's coming?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest like never before. But the woman didn't answer. Instead, she turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving us alone in the clearing with our thoughts and a lot of unanswered questions. Sam and I exchanged nervous glances. "We need to get out of here," Sam said firmly. We turned to leave, but as we did, I got a glimpse of something in the shadows, a pair of glowing eyes staring at us from the edge of the trees. "Sam," I whispered, grabbing his arm, "do you see that?" He looked over his shoulder and gasped, "We have to go, now." We ran as fast as we could, stumbling and tripping all over the roots and rocks. The sound of our footsteps echoing through the woods, followed closely by something else, a low, menacing growl that seemed to come from all directions at once. I glanced behind us and saw the eyes moving closer and closer, their glow brightening in the darkness. Whatever it was gaining on us. "Faster!" Sam yelled, his voice filled with panic. Finally, we burst through the trees onto the hillside. The lights of the city spread out below us. The fireworks continued to explode overhead, but all I could think about the creature, whatever it was, had been chasing us. We didn't stop running until we reached our friends, who were waiting anxiously near the edge of the hill. "What happened?" one of them asked, concern filling their faces. I tried to catch my breath, my heart still racing. There was something in the woods, something that got not right. Sam nodded, his eyes wide with fear. We saw it, eyes glowing in the trees and watching us. Our friends exchanged worried glances, but before anyone could say anything, the firework came to a spectacular finale, lighting up the sky with bursts of color and light. But even as we watched the firework, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched too. That whatever had been in the woods was still out there, lurking in the shadows. So, if you are out there celebrating next 4th of July, keep an eye on the shadows. You never knew what might be watching you from the darkness. This happened few years back on 4th of July. I was so excited to watch the fireworks with my friends, but what started as a fun night turned into a real life horror story. Here's what happened. Last night was supposed to be a blast, literally. My friends and I planned to meet up at the park for the annual 4th of July fireworks. The sky was clear and the air was buzzing with excitement as families gathered on blankets and lawn chairs. We arrived early to get a good spot near the lake where the fireworks were set to launch. The sun was starting to set in. I could hear children laughing and music playing in the background. It felt like a perfect summer evening. As the dusk settled in, the first firework shot into the sky, exploding in bursts of color and light, the crowd cheering and howling, and I couldn't help but smile. It was magical, just like every 4th of July should be. But then, things took a dark turn. About halfway through the show, I noticed something odd in the distance. A figure standing alone near the edge of the woods, far away from the rest of the crowd. At first, I thought it was just someone enjoying the fireworks alone from a different vantage point. But as I watched, my unease grew. The figure was wearing all black, blending into the shadow of the trees. They weren't moving like the others, who were clapping and cheering with each burst of light. They were just standing there, watching. I tried to shake off the feeling of dread creeping over my spine and focus back on the fireworks. Maybe it was just my imagination, or it was some loner. But then the figure moved. They started walking towards the edge of the lake, where families were gathered. I could see now that it was a man, tall, with a hood pulled over his head. He didn't look like he was there to enjoy the show. He looked somewhat off. I nudged my friend Jess and pointed him out. She squinted into the dim light and whispered, "That's weird. What are you doing out there?" We watched as he walked closer to the families, his movements slow and deliberate. He didn't seem to be looking at the fireworks anymore. Instead, his gaze was fixed on the people gathered by the lake. A couple of kids ran past him, laughing and chasing each other with the sparkles. He didn't react, just kept walking toward the water. That's when I noticed something glinting in his hand. A knife. My heart skipped a beat as I realized what was happening. He wasn't there to watch the fireworks. He was here for something else entirely. I grabbed Jessie's arm and whispered urgently, "We have to do something. He got a knife." She gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "Oh my god, we need to tell someone." But before we could move, the man reached the edge of the lake and lunged toward a family sitting nearby. The parents were distracted by the fireworks, unaware of the danger approaching them. I screamed, but my voice was just lost in the explosion overhead. Jess and I sprinted towards the family, desperate to warn them before it was too late. "Watch out!" Jess yelled, waving her arms frantically. The parents looked up in confusion just as the man grabbed their child, a little girl no older than 5. She screamed, her voice racing through the chaos of the fireworks. Panic erupted around us. People realized what was happening. Some shouted for help, while others froze in shock. Jess and I reached the family just as the man began to drag the girl toward the trees, his grip tightening around her waist. Let her go, I yelled, adrenaline pumping through my veins. He turned towards us, his eyes wild and desperate. For a moment, I saw something in his expression: fear, confusion, maybe even regret. But then he tightened his hold on the girl and took a step back, disappearing into the darkness of the woods. Without thinking, Jess and I chased after him, our hearts pounding in our chests. We couldn't let him get away with the little girl, not on the 4th of July, not never. The woods were dark and dense, the trees casting long shadows in the moonlight. Twigs snapped under our feet as we ran deeper into the forest, following the faint sound of the girl's cry. Over there, Jessie pointed ahead, where the flicker of movement caught my eye. We pushed through a thickest of bushes and stumbled into a clearing. There, under the canopy of trees, we found the man kneeling beside the girl. She was sobbing uncontrollably, her hand wrapped around her knees. Please, the man pleaded, his voice shaking. I didn't mean to. Jess and I exchanged a look, unsure of what to do next. The man wasn't armed anymore, and he seemed more scared than dangerous. But he had still tried to take the girl with him, and we couldn't forget that. Stay back, Jess whispered to me, inching closer to the man. Hey, she said softly, it's going to be okay. Just stay right there. The man nodded, his hands trembling as he held them in surrender. I didn't mean to hurt her. I just mean. Why? I blurred out, unable to hold back my anger. Why would you do something like that? He looked at me, tears streaming down his face. I don't know. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer and closer with each passing second. Jess and I kept the man in the sight until they arrived, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They took him away in handcuffs, still sobbing and mumbling apologies. The little girl was reunited with her parents, who held her tightly and whispered soothing words into her. As we walked away back to the park, the fireworks continued to light up, but the magic was gone. The celebration felt hollow, tainted by what had just happened. This 4th of July taught me that even in moments of joy and celebrations, darkness can find its way in. It's a sobering reminder to always stay vigilant, even when everything seems perfectly right. So, if you are out there tonight watching fireworks or celebrating with loved ones, please be safe. And if you see something suspicious, don't hesitate to speak up. You never know whose life you might save. Hope you guys like this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and like the videos and share it. And if you like this kind of videos, please check out the channel for more videos. And also, if you have any suggestions or any improvements I need to make in this channel, please post them in the comment section. And if you have any real life encounters, scary stories that you want me to narrate in this channel, feel free to send them too. Till next time, Malayali Wendigo, bye.
Hope you guys like this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to this channel. Enable the bell icon so you don't miss new uploads. And also check out other videos in this channel too. Like them and share them. And if you have any suggestions or any improvements I need to make in this channel, please post them in the comment section. Till next time, this is Malayali Wendigo. Bye.